I can hear it.
All right, good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is the Creativity 202 check-in session for Lesson 3. Um, it is March 14th, 2023. Be wearing the Ides of March. Let's do a quick check-in, and then we'll head on into the into the wood shop there and get things rolling. Luke, how you doing?
Yeah, all good here. Just getting ready for the colder months. Got back from New Zealand on Sunday night for a quick 4 days fly in, fly out for a wedding. So that was good, but otherwise all good.
Very good. Brother William?
31 degrees right now. My son is out skiing, so that's kind of the plus or the minus. You have to drive in snow-covered roads, but my kid gets to do something he loves with his biological dad, and which is cool. I'm always keen to keep that relationship going as good as I can. So it was win-win all around. I hope.
Cool. Dan, how are you?
Doing well. We've had kind of a blustery day here today, but uh, hanging in there. Did a little bit of trading and coming to the finishing stretches of working on the year's taxes. So be glad when that's done.
Yep.
Aho.
Feel that one. Ed, how are you today?
I'm doing okay, a little tired. Had to was helping out my senior family. Had to set up some surgeries for the end of the month with my mom and my uncle. So it was a kind of a long drive back to New York this morning. Kind of little tired. Tried to get some trading in, didn't work out very well, but we'll talk about that. But other than that, I'm on this side of the dirt. Aho.
And Art, how are we doing?
Doing good. Enjoying our snowstorm here in Massachusetts, or I guess I should say slush storm. Um, but it's been nice. I got the chance to use a snowblower for the first time this year, which is kind of strange being as it's halfway through March. Um, but yeah, I'm good. And today pretty much was just catching up on day job kind of stuff. So doing good. I hope.
Very good. Yeah, same here. We're in spring break in Kansas and getting some writing done and a lot of prep work for my elective courses. One of the guys I'm working with is a Lithuanian, and he's updating his nation's national defense plan in preparation to going back home to work on the general staff to do that very job. So this is his chance to um, get a master's degree in security studies while preparing for his next assignment as the planner for his nation. And he's got a real sense of urgency about that, let me tell you. So that keeps us all on our toes there. Yeah, everything's pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the into the room and open her up for uh, your reflective learning and aha moments for the week. So here we go. Eddie.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm a lesson behind, or I would like to say it's on time because everything works the way it worked. It's not. I don't see doing this the second time around. It just seems to be falling into play. So lesson two for me was um, oh Jesus Christ! It was about critical moments. At least what I'm saying. I'm going to paraphrase it. Today, my daughter had a serious situation where she gave me a phone call, early in the morning, and it's different situations. One was with one employer, one was with another employer, where she's learning. She's 19, and she's learning how employers actually work. Got hurt at the job, and I tried to walk her through that, need certain paperwork to cover herself, and make sure everything was. And they were giving her a hard time, and I'm explaining to her that this is a time where people try to cover their butt. You have to cover yours. So in that same situation, it was a struggle with her getting the paperwork together to make sure she was covered. So we got that together, and it worked out good. But then she had a second employer because she's in college to be a teacher, doing very, very well. I'm so proud of her. I mean, I got no bad things to say about it. And it was just so great. And then this morning I get a call, which was it started my chaos day. And she's telling me about her other employer who she's working for, and I'm going, look, you have to stand your ground. It became so chaotic that she was really, really upset. I'm like, look, you have to grasp this, and I can help you, but you have to make the ultimate decision. When I was telling her that because her employer was upset, this is bringing out her employer's worst, and it's a situation where she's getting ready to move on to another position, which is what she wants, and the other employer wasn't happy, and she got out on her, and I just tell her, yeah, she's angry, but you have to do this at your best. This is going to now take your time, and you're going to come out your best. You have to sit down. What do you need to do? How are you going to handle it? Are you upset? Well, yes, I'm upset. Okay, let's calm down. Let's breathe, and let's not, because you're angry. She's angry. You're not going to get anywhere. So we sat down. We explained that, and we got some things. Hopefully it'll come out for the best of both of them. But my daughter's still going to move on, and she's going to do the best that she can. You're moving on. You don't need that important careers to be a teacher. So where it becomes fun is like I said, I came back from Delaware dealing with the family, and I got home about 3 o'clock this morning. And, so all this, so I got very little sleep that I don't anyway. And so I get up and I'm trying to focus now, calm myself down so I could actually do some trading. I was like, okay, today's going to be the trading day I'm going to do because the market is going to do whatever it's doing, with the banks going down and this. So I said, okay, I should be in a good position. And I just not could not get to it. And I remember the lesson. I didn't remember. I was like, okay, this is a chaotic moment. I'm really in a chaotic moment because I'm dealing with some lingering stuff with the family. I'm still dealing with that down south. Dealing with daughter right now in the morning, and I'm chaotic, and I could not. It just didn't work. So, and as being taught with Coach Bill, intuition, being an intuition trader, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not here. Let me see. Let me not get upset with myself, but I'm still going to try. Meaning, I'm going to take the shot, and I'm going to readjust as I did later on. I took the shots. Some of them didn't work out. Some of them did, and I'm okay with it. For the first time, I'm actually truly okay with not being perfect or not being. I took the shot, and I'm using my intuition, and I grasped what I grasped from this one is I recognized it pretty fast where it didn't linger. I was like, okay, I'm off. I'm not with the market. I'm not with anything. I'm still off. I must still let me work on this and let me take my steps. Let's go back to standard work as I was taught. What is standard work? So I started looking, okay, let's see, I can't get this. So let's try to find a mover or something like that and get so right around about halfway through the afternoon, I kind of got my legs back, my sea legs came back. And it felt really good. So, again, so it was one of those things where, I referred back to the plan. My plan is my rules, my rule set for trading, my rule set, and my rule set for getting things. For me, it was a very big aha moment. Like, wow, revert back to standard rules, standard work, and you can get back in there. And then when you go, that plan. So I had my normal plan, but I reverted back to the original plan so I could my feet back, get my footing back. That was a very, very big aha moment. And it's the same aha moment where I'm telling my daughter, like, you got to breathe. And I tell her these things, I got to breathe. It's like, I got to breathe. I got to calm down. I got to get this, got to just breathe, just relax. I relax. Once I started relaxing and going back to the muscle memory of trading, the basic stuff, everything started coming back. So this was perfect, right on time, about, way I, right on time about being where I needed with lessons. Like I said, for me, this is always going to be more about life, and I'm trading, and I'm trading my life, doing kind of both at the same time. And so that was a very, very good moment. I got a lot out of this lesson today. And again, reviewing, and it's so much clearer this time around versus the first time, because I was anxious. There was no anxiety and no nothing this time around. Just like, okay, revert back to you got your rules, you know what you do. If I had to go get the notebook, I actually had to go get the notebook because I had some stuff on my computer, and I plan, prepare, ready to execute SS, take the shot. That's right on my computer, and I use that same rules all the time. All I had to do was just look down. It's like, oh, okay, okay, all right, yep, yeah, Mark is doing what he's doing. I'm gonna plan, prepare, execute, and do what I have to do. And so yeah, that was my aha moment with this lesson, and my aha moment for today. And I hope.
William.
This is also the second time through for me, but things are reinforced, and I feel good that they are cemented, so to speak. That this is really taken hold as part of me. And number one is just telling the truth, and mostly, if I can even say it that way, to myself. Uh, Number two, my other next rule. This is part of exercise two, is to choose to do good, um, to spread goodness. When you have the choice between saying nothing or doing something not good, do the good thing. Um, it seems pretty obvious that you should do that, but it isn't that way in the world. Um, and leading by example, no matter what you think it might cost you, so far in the recent history, it has proven to be a game changer. Not so much for
Yep.
me, but for people around me, and setting the example. Um, my niece and her boyfriend had an awful breakup, and I just said, hey, you know what? This is the niece I've talked about before in other story circles, who has had some horrible things happen to her, and this guy was a young man, younger than her, and he wanted to get revenge on her for her breaking up with him. And I said, dude, look at these horrible things that have happened to her in her life. She's made some bad choices. Do you think you're going to do better than karma in teaching her a lesson and how to act? I said, you lose. You lose. I'm telling you. Just let it go and be the better person. And he has. So that leads me to the third thing, is to be a man of your word. And when you have to, part of this exercise was when you have to bend or change the rule, at least be a man of your intent. If you can't speak the the most powerful truth, because it may cause harm, even in the short term. At least be a man of your intent. So I'm really proud of myself that I've done that in the last year. So then I went on to the next exercise, and it says taking the thing that struck with me was taking the unplanned trade. And I have to admit, it feels great when it works, and I feel like a complete idiot when it doesn't. But the intuition is still good. I'm still 7 out of 8 on intuition winning. So I'm going to keep going with it. Whether or not the trade works out, which is the next part of this, is it doesn't matter to me what the actual outcome is of the trade. Even though I do feel those feelings, I was like, no, I cannot not do this, because that's the way I trade is I'm an intuitive trader, so I cannot be not me. So it's, again, going back to being truer to yourself, regardless of the consequence. And lastly, to tie all that in, I do kind of set myself up to I don't, when I override a trade, I insulate myself for the potential of the downfall, because I promise myself I'm not gonna beat myself up for you know uh for the result. I'm not gonna get too high or too low. I'm just gonna treat it professionally. Hey, you know what? There's something that's telling me to do this. I learned this in nursing. Follow your instinct. Ken taught me years and years and years ago when he was doing his some of his psychological stuff. He was saying intuition is actually the next thought that hasn't bubbled its way to your consciousness yet. Really smart people like you five might be able to hold 4 conscious thoughts in your brain. I can hold like 2. So the third one that you think is intuition is actually, it just hasn't superseded the one above it. That doesn't mean it's wrong. You should still go with it. I have found in most cases. So feeling pretty good about this whole exercise in the last week, and all the the creativity. I'm rewriting some of the lessons and some of the reference material in the lessons, and it's turning out really well, and I'm really happy with that. So aho.
All right.
So I've been catching up, and so I was able to actually get into lesson 3 today before today's call. And I love the beginning of it, hearing about the Battle of Harper's Ferry. Just on a note that has nothing to do with trading. And I grew up in Falls Church, and some of my neighbors had I think relatives that had come from Harper's Ferry. And I remember as a young boy going down there and making a couple trips to Harper's Ferry. I'm sure it looks a whole lot different now than it did when I was like maybe 7 or 10 going down there to visit it. But I for some reason didn't that was like one battle I never read a lot about when I was growing up, and I had an interest in the reading about battles in the Civil War that continued with me when I went into college. So anyway, that was kind of fun. I enjoyed it. Um, I started looking at my unbreakable life rules, and I'm sure I have like many others, but the ones that came up first for me were like, don't steal or cheat, don't be dishonest, disrespectful of others, or selfish, and give unto others as I would have them give unto me. We're kind of the three, and I think yeah, I imagine with certain circumstances within life, I could definitely get pressured to bend some of those rules if it was to maybe be of service to like another rule. You know what I mean? Like make trade-offs and things like that. But in general, I pretty much try to live my life by those three. Um, for exercise too, I didn't really, I don't have a unit. Like I'm not in the military, so I don't really have an operational rule of action. I love the trader exercise, and I don't know if it's the same intuition, but I've been in another class that I'm taking outside of this one. I've been working on trying to develop my intuition, both. And what I mean by develop it, just be able to get in touch with it better. And then the other part of it is learning to trust it. I think for me, the two of those have to come together. One, being able to hear that communication, and two, be able to trust it. And I don't, and I was just kind of trying to focus on that for like just helping to guide me through life's decisions. And I hadn't really thought too much about trading and applying it there. And if it's the same intuition, that well, that's interesting, because I've most of my life up till now I've been more of a logic, a reason kind of a guy, like all up in my head, and not so much down like through my body and my feelings. But going through these questions, it struck me how little of a plan I have, and hopefully I'm in the right place to learn how to come up with one, or start the development of one that fits me, and that can guide me, because I'm very unstructured, and there's part of me that likes that freedom. But then it comes with it, like, well, obviously accountability. And I noticed as I went through some of these questions, if sometimes, I've looked at charts for a long time, and I've taken a couple of Gabriel's workshops and things. So, I've had some experience learning trading systems, and, some of the mechanics of them. And the what am I trying to say? So there are times when I'll see like maybe a setup just when I'm like looking through scanning some charts, and I'll have a feeling of like, oh, that's going to be a good setup. I think that one's going to run. And sometimes I'll tell myself that I'll look at it and go, yeah, I know it's overextended. You'll need to wait. And like I don't have a system, so like I never really come back around to it. And then another situation I'll find myself in oftentimes is I'll be in that exact same situation, probably a different stock or something else, and then I'll just have this fear of like, if I don't take this, that thing's going to run away from me, and I want to get on board, and I'll do that now. And most of the time I do that, I have the sense that it's like there's part of me that's saying do that, and there's a quiet little voice behind me saying it's overextended. You really need to wait. You'll be okay. And when I go with the one that's up front, that leading feeling or push, it that's usually coming out of fear. It ends up not working out, and then usually I'll end up, it pulls back just like I thought it did. But anyway, it was definitely an eye opener to like go through those exercises. And I definitely, for when we get to the latter part of the check-in, I have some questions, but the biggest ones really were just, that my question is like, how do I go from where I am to something, like I said, to having a plan or an approach that's more structured and a good fit for me. And is it possible for me to develop my intuition to help with my trading and also my life decisions? And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I hope, thank you.
Dan.
So like some of the other folks on the call tonight, I guess all of us, we've been uh, through the creativity class once, and I wish some of our new people were here tonight because I was looking forward to going back to lesson one as kind of an opportunity to sort of introduce myself, since I missed doing that the last time I was there because I talked about the myths of creativity. But perhaps they will catch up on the recording, or there'll be another time. So I did go back to the lesson one. And I think going back to these lessons in this second round will be very good because the course is so rich. There's so much there. On a lot of them, I felt like I just scratched the surface. So anyway, I went back to lesson one. I'll briefly go through a member of my family that did something new, original, and utterly individual. Well, I admire my grandfather, Henry Alfred Holmes, who was born in Maine, married a Maryland school teacher, Lula Thomas, and bore three children, Will, Olive, and Leo, and I'm the son of Olive. And he was a professor of Spanish literature at various places. He also did work for the Methodist Church, I guess, and he traveled extensively. And where my mother was actually born was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, which was somewhere that I ended up going when I was 8 years old, and I spent the next 6 years in Buenos Aires, and it was a wonderful place to be. And he was, at the time, he was the headmaster of Colegio Ward there in Buenos Aires, and he translated their national epic book called Martin Fierro, which is a book about an Argentine gaucho, which is the Argentine version of a cowboy. And that was to say that we're sort of a family of writers. My mother wanted to be a writer. My father was a writer for the USIA, an arm of the State Department, and various other people in my family are all writers. So, and I'm a writer too. I mean, I work in IT and cybersecurity, but really a lot of the time what clients have been paying me to do is to write. And no accident, when I'm trading, I probably have about a dozen different journals going on in which I record all my thoughts and ideas. And unlike art, I don't have a lack of a plan. If anything, I probably have too many and overcomplicated plans. So if Art, if you ever need someone to help you kind of get the juices flowing on writing a plan, perhaps talk to me. I could give you all kinds of outlines and things like that. I wish I'd gotten to know my grandfather better. Unfortunately, he passed by the time I was about 8 or 9 years old. But I've discovered some of his diaries, and in my copious spare time, not, I'm trying to read some of them. The first one starts when he was about 12 years old. So, I mean, that's a writer, keeping a diary at that age. In fact, my mother had a diary at that age too that I have, and that was pretty amazing, but that'll be another time. So really the meat of lesson one for me was exercise two. That was one of the big ones. And I realized when I went back to it the second time that I hadn't picked the best examples of when I was a maverick and when I had the courage to split from the crowd and go my own way. Actually, this exercise 2 says recall a time in your childhood. But I'm going to have to say that the time when I was really a maverick was not in my childhood, but it was in my young adulthood, when at the age of 32, with 2 young kids, 2 young sons, I decided to start an independent consulting business as a industry consultant. And I was consulting on communication protocols like open system interconnection and TCP/IP. I'm sure you've all heard of TCP/IP, but maybe not about open system interconnection or some of the other ones, or X500 or X400, or these were the things that I was an expert at already from a previous job. And I started that consulting business in 1990. I was 32 years old. I had a few $1,000s in the bank, 2 young children, and a wife that wasn't working because she was taking care of the children. Well, she was working part-time, I guess. A mortgage, most people wouldn't have done it, but this maverick had a burning desire for financial freedom. Where did I get the idea for that? I had a friend of my best man at my wedding. He was in Boston, and he was a consultant contract programmer, and his motto was never more than 9, and he meant 9 months out of the year working. Of course, what I found out when I was a consultant was that you not only had to do the contract work, but you had to run your business and do marketing and all that other stuff, and it just took a lot of time, the marketing and accounting. And then I had a friend at my job that I had at the time while I was thinking about this. And he said, you're not an independent consultant until you get your second client and you ask your first client for a raise. I got surprising support from my father, who was, I think he was retired by then. He was a retired civil servant of all people. He said, you're doing what a lot of us wanted to do when we were your age. And so he was proud of me, my goodness. And then 3 months into my first contract at Air Inc., that contract wound up. It didn't automatically get renewed. Nothing new was materializing. I'd hoped to teach classes at Belcor, for $4,000 each, 12 times during the year, but only ended up getting 2 or 3 of them the whole year, and there were none scheduled in May of 1990 due to lack of attendees signing up. And so I actually went looking for a real job. Luckily, I didn't find one. I was down to my last couple thousand and thinking about raiding my not so large IRA account, but then Air Inc. came through with another contract. So I'm glad that worked out. And the next year, I ended up partnering with a couple people and ended up having lots of clients, and continued doing that all through the 90s until our little consulting company merged with another one. And then we got acquired by Gartner. And then, we had our liquidity event, and that was good. So today, that maverick, that young adult maverick, would be very supportive of my efforts to trade. I mean, all he wanted was financial freedom, really, right? And indeed, he got a certain way along with his consulting career and now had a lot more money in the bank, and looked at that and said, you know what? If I was a really good investor, I could make more money off of that than I could off of working. But of course, then we had the 2000 bust, the .com and the .bomb, and reality set in. Made multiple efforts to become a trader. And only when I became a super trader, part of the super trader program with Van Tharp in 2020 and 2021, did I learn how to do very well in a bull market. And I did. And then in uh, 22, we had no bull market, and I didn't know how to trade that. And now RLCO is my main avenue, for learning how to trade the bear and sideways market. And so, what would that young maverick want me to do now? I think was part of the exercise, and that brings me to the conversation we had, Ken, on Sunday night when somewhat inappropriately I blurted out that I didn't have active trader status. And, I'd been getting kind of anxious about not having active trader status because I know that if you want to trade like Ken, you've got to take them long, you've got to take them short. And if you take them short, you've got to take them in an outright account. And if you lose, now you're in the wash sale, and now you can't trade that name anymore for 30 days unless you want to give up the deduction, which puts you at a disadvantage in trading it. So, yeah, I'd been agonizing about that active trader status. I know Ken said send a message to the universe. I know I'm kind of doing it anyway, the active trading in the simulator still. Well, I've been in and out of the simulator. I've done about maybe 200 RLCO trades, which, by the way, I don't know, I think one of you mentioned kind of it was in some context, but a lot of this you just learn through repeated experience. The plan kind of emerges out of the experience. Like, for example, today I learned that when I put in my stop loss order, I want it to actually be 4 orders if it's a turbo trade. And there are 2 brackets, one bracket for the 30-minute and one bracket for the daily. And when I put them in, I can't group the 2 stop orders, even if they're still the same stop order, because then I can't move them independently in TradeStation. So I have to put them in one tick apart. So just little things, just one thing after another, I put them into the plan. Well, like the other day, I had a trade. It was Monday. I had a trade with it doesn't matter what it was with, but it was going up nicely. Oh yeah, it was with the oil mini contract, MCL. And I just had an urge to be long oil because I thought oil's it's going to 100 and here it is at 70. I should have some. Maybe I can turbo myself into a position. And so I'm in it. And I was in on the 3-minute because I'm doing triple turbo, 330 daily sometimes. And it would have been a beautiful trade, except that I used the R10 and there was a PSAR just a few cents below it that would have held. So, there that goes into the plan. Don't use the R10 if there's a PSAR available nearby or a swing low available nearby, So the plan just kind of emerges out of all these failures. But going back to what that young maverick would say, yeah, he's right for him. But right now, I'm a pre-retired maverick. And by pre-retired, I mean, I'm kind of retired, but I'm still doing consulting. But what I'm not doing is the marketing part. I'm not, and I'm just trying to avoid any kind of cybersecurity or any kind of consulting work other than the billable work itself. Even the work of constantly trying to keep up with what the technology is doing, because I'm afraid I could get stumped by a client. I'm just letting that go because I've always been a fast learner. So I'm not doing that much work because I'm not doing that much marketing. And even the opportunities I have, I tend to be a little slow to pursue them because I'm so passionate now about trading. But as a pre-retired maverick, I don't, I want to work, like more part-time, part-time part of the time as opposed to part-time all the time. So according to Green Tax Trader, you're supposed to work like 4 hours a day during market days. One of the things they have for active tax trader status. So I don't know if it fits me. And a couple of you guys were talking about FOMO and taking trades that maybe you later regretted. You felt like you had to take the trade. I just put some new beliefs into my plan, which kind of address that because I want to do this. Ken had told me that I needed to work on having a disciplined production line process, and I'm working on that. But that doesn't mean that that process has to have you working 8 hours a day. It could be a disciplined production line process that takes, and a couple hours a day, 3 days a week if you want. Because, we get to make up these rules ourselves. That's the beauty of being an independent trader. So I added a couple new beliefs here into my plan. You see how this just emerges. One of them was just one trade in a day or 3 in a week is enough for now, though 2 or 3 good ones in a day would be wonderful. But what I'm trying to get away from is the FOMO, the feeling that I've got to find some, even if that means staring uselessly at the screen over and over again for a few hours and not feeling good about anything and not taking anything, or worse, taking one that's a loser because it wasn't a real good pattern. And so then the next belief is there is no FOMO, there is no hurry. I only need to look for that one good trade. And maybe that's where the intuition comes in. It's I don't know if I want to say that the trade feels good because I don't know that I trust my feelings yet, because I don't know that I'm that good yet, with the patterns. What I want to say about the intuition is that the trade doesn't feel bad. Nothing about the trade should feel bad, and then maybe I should take it. So that's what I'm thinking. Time, please. I'm almost done. And yes, I can trust in the expectancy of my system to know that on the average, it will be a good trade. Well, those are the main things I want to say. The pre-retired Maverick doesn't quite know what he wants to do yet. But for now, just working on that disciplined production line process, getting some positive weeks so I can get back into the live market instead of the simulator, although they behave very similarly. I want to start bringing in some money, and that's what I'm trying to manifest right now by April 15th is, positive weeks going back into the live account. So I will turn it over to the others. Aho.
Luke.
So for this week, I went through the trader exercises, have really added on a lot since the lesson from last time that I did this lesson. And in terms of taking a trade that's not part of my current plan, that happens quite often. I'd probably say twice a day where I want to take a trade. And the reason why I will take a trade is I've got the time and I've got the will to do it. I can see a pattern. It's not a standard pattern. and I've got the bullets left to get it done. I'll show you a screenshot of some trades that I did last week that are outside my normal rule set, and I'll explain the reasoning behind that. In terms of the next question is, according to your plan, what should you do? So in terms of my plan, I should stay out. I should wait for my entry parameters to be met, which is normally an RLXD, a PSR flip, and then waiting from there to get a higher high or a lower low. And as from what Dan just said, that's my disciplined trade plan, waiting for those entry parameters to be met. In terms of the next question, how did the urge come to your attention? What was the trigger? The urge came about as an exit on one trade can also be a stop and reverse for the next trade. And that's when I think my scout mindset's really playing its part. It's looking for additional entries or a stop and reverse entry that is not normally part of my trading plan. And it especially happens when there's a harsh winter and I feel, it's a feeling, that there's going to be a reversal back to the mean. And a reversal back to the mean, as Ken would say, is not surprising because then we're back into a state of equilibrium. And that's when I have that urge of, we've had that harsh winter, it's fallen down the cliff, and we're going to walk back up the mountain in 2 or 3 steps or stages there. Next question, if you act on the urge to take the new but unplanned trade, how do I feel when it wins? I'm torn between feeling lucky and also being a data scientist in that I'm just collecting the data. It feels like it's a win as I'm collecting data, and that might lead to a new system. And I'm only going to get to a new system if I gain more knowledge and more information that this system might work. How do I feel if it loses? Well, I don't like losing, but I've really got to assign myself the emotion that I'm really just collecting data and it's not part of my actual plan. Do I return to my existing plan? Yes, I do, regardless of the outcome. And I also make sure I am following my checklist for trading. Do I continue to stay with my intuition as long as I'm winning? No, I don't. I have to mark it down as a deviation from the plan, and I note it down that it's a different system. How do these intuitions affect my risk management and capital allocation to the trade? That's a really good question. I make the risk box bigger, as then I'm not risking too much because it's a system that's not proven. So I should get out earlier than what I normally would do in my current system plan with the discipline trade plan. Do the results from earlier in the day affect my decision to take the intuitive trade? That's probably the best question. There were trades in the last couple of weeks where I would normally take it. I just had the feeling that it was going to psych me out of the trade, like go one direction and then automatically go in the other way, just in one bar. And that's normally around news announcements. And it's something I need to be mindful of because the fear of missing out is looking for the next trade, but it's more of a revenge trade because I've missed the earlier entries and exits, which would have been according to my trading plan. I need to study the result of my intuitive trades, mark them up as separate entries and exits. They have their own system. They have their own entry and exit rules. And that needs to be marked up on the R histogram based on not the system that I'm trading as per a disciplined trading plan, but as Bill was saying, intuitively 7 out of 8 are great. So after 30 trades, how are they performing for my intuition? Next question, do your intuitions come from your existing indicator framework, or is it directly coming from price observation? Well, it is through the existing framework, RLCO, but it's also price observation in how that's structured. So if you have a harsh winter and it's got some very big closes, and then it's looking like it's in harsh winter and looking for a reversal, then that's on price observation, looking, hitting Z3, coming back well into the river. Does my intuitive trade trigger come with a feeling of greed or fear? I'd say definitely both. Is there a positive feeling of excitement or worry that I might soon miss the chance? Yes, there's a worry that I'll miss the trade. A worry that I'll, in inverted commas, get in too late when I could have got in earlier. That's a feeling that I feel a lot with my current system, where I'm looking at 5-minute bars. They take a long time to form. If I'm waiting, 3 or 4 bars, that's 20 minutes. And I feel like it's going to return back to the mean, but I'm getting in, I'm waiting for the regression line across the dragon, or I'm waiting for the PSO to flip. So yes, that's a worry. How long do I spend on deciding? Probably less than a minute if it's an intuitive trade, and I can see there's a 1, 2, 3 exit or a Z3 excursion. I won't wait too long. I'll only wait about a minute to frame that trade. And because I remove a bit of the emotion from that trade, because I make that risk box a lot bigger. How do I feel about overriding my rules at the moment of decision? I don't feel too bad because the risk box is big, and I don't feel like it's going to hit that one execution risk box. So I don't feel too bad about it. I do get out a lot earlier because I'm not following any standard rules that I would normally feel like I'm trying to adhere to with my disciplined trading plan. Do I enjoy overriding my rules? I do, because I feel like it's a potential for another system that I could trade. And I really just got to bring myself back to, I'm really just collecting data on this. I'm not risking too much. So just make sure that I can distinguish between overriding the rules and just collecting the data, and then also being the trader that I've become by following the rules with discipline from what I've been doing. Another question, what's the best thing about having rules? So one of the best thing about having rules with the system that I've got now is I can run it on autopilot. I run them basically, I've set them in the plan and prepare phase. I've made sure I know exactly what entry rules and exit rules I need to be following, and I should follow them to the letter. And because I can do that and mark that up at the end of the day, I'm getting quite good at following them. It's just that I can't sit in front of the screen all the time. No one can really. So you're going to miss trades, which you've just got to be comfortable with. What's the worst thing about having rules? I'd say not much. The monkey doesn't have his way to go in and out of trades all the time, not trying to chase every move. And that, to me, can only be a good thing. Otherwise, you're really just gambling. You don't really have any set rules based on what you should be doing. Last question is probably where I need to share my screen. Recall a time when you followed your intuition. Now draw a step-by-step process for making this decision. I'll just share that again, if that's all right. So this was a trade from last week. This would have been a potential. I definitely wouldn't say I definitely would have taken this short at this level, because this was when the Reserve Bank announced an increase to the interest rates. But the language from what the RBA governor was indicating was that we might have a pause in increasing interest rates. So that's why it actually went down. When this happened, I felt guilty because I didn't follow my rules. Whether or not I would have got on is another thing, because I would have actually got on at this bar. So the slippage on this might have been quite high. So I forgave myself for not getting on for this trade. But what I did here was look for a 1, 2, 3 entry to go along. Made the risk box bigger than what I normally would have. And I got out at the first sign here where it didn't follow through. Then I did the same thing again. I feel really comfortable with these entries because the risk box is bigger. The exits are basically where I feel like it hasn't followed through. And then I've waited for the next entry here. So especially with this second entry, you've got higher RL10s. Looks like, potentially a card or two where you've got RL10 highs, but getting out quickly when it hasn't worked. That's where I need to do more work on this sort of harsh winter. It obviously would be a Z3 excursion because you've got all this consolidation here, massive price movements here, and waiting for a 1, 2, 3 stop and reverse here if I was short at this level. Then I followed my rules based on here, and that's exactly where I should be getting in on my rules, and exactly where I should be getting in for a stop and reverse for my disciplined trade plan. So in terms of following my intuition here, I marked down the reasons for why I entered, the reasons for why I exited, and then I can mark up in the R histogram, separating the two systems, intuition, which is a TQN, as opposed to an SQN of what I follow in my rules. Yeah, and I'm adding this on to the big Word document that I'm producing from last week. And then I need to work out where I'm actually going to put all these questions, which a lot of them would be in the execute and assess phase, based on intuition trades and system trades. That's all from me today, I hope.
All right. Well, just a couple things there. On Patreon, there's a good package of insights into Fletcher's culture of creativity and the teaching of creativity in this style, experience in the wider world of professionals. And I put some links and insights into that. The hour-long discussion from Andrew Barry is pretty well done. I included a link to his interview with me. I'm going to try to share this without. We'll see if it's going to crash. It typically will. So let's give it we'll give it a try anyway. If it does crash, I'll be right back. All right, let me know when you can see that. Yeah, we're going to crash, I think. Feels like we're going to try to crash. Nope. Hey, give me a thumbs up on the screen if you can still hear me. Well, I'm going to cover the slide I was going to show about the regional bank trade in the nightly podcast here, which starts shortly. So let me just hit a few of the highlights from things I'm hearing from our true stories tonight. First, how easy it is to give advice to others because we're outside the fishbowl and they're in it trying to swim. It's harder when we apply it to ourselves, but it can be done. And it causes you to go back to first principles and original thinking and really own the techniques. And then when you're under stress, and if you can use it, then that's how you know it. So I'm glad to see you're finding that, Ed. We've got to find our own zero state for trading and whatever it takes to get there fast. I try to remember the difference between professional behavior and hobbyist behavior. There's a lesson in this course later on that'll serve you well, but it's not too soon to start thinking about that. In a professional behavior, I go to work and I have a safe space in an OSHA compliant space to do work with power tools to make a living. And so when I go to work, I am ready to work, period. Let's go. And I'm in an OSHA space and nothing else matters in that space and nothing else is going on inside that space. So you've got to create that OSHA space for professional behavior and cut away everything that's not professional. Or you're a hobbyist and you're dabbling. And the difference between them is the degree of commitment. Hobbyists do things because they can. Professionals do things because they must and won't do anything else except that. Hey, I think the testimony Jeff gave Sunday on his knee board and his approach to recording things that mattered to him in the trade were really well done. And that's not just for the trade, but when you're going through these lessons and taking your notes. I mean, I use 5x8 cards, but he does a knee board as a pilot. So when he's flying, he can have all the stuff he needs right there on his knee board. And if it doesn't fit on his knee board, he doesn't need it. But if he needs it, it's on his knee board. And that's a professional response to a chaotic situation where he's got to have the right information. I'd invite you to think about, for my brother, and you guys also, but the difference between an unplanned trade and an unprepared trade. I put all the emphasis on prepared. I'm prepared to trade. So when an opportunity arises, my question is not, well, did I plan for this? But did I prepare for this? If I'm prepared for it, then I can create a risk managed trading plan to follow through on the intuition if I have time, will, pattern, and money. And the preparation for those is everything. Then it takes the minimum viable information to tell me if I have a signal. And if it's not a signal I recognize, then I'm, not going to take the trade. In one real sense, to be prepared is to have planned. If you were planning to trade, show me how prepared you are to trade. Then I can tell you if you actually were planning to trade. So planning the trade or the trading plan is much less about the particular symbol than it is about you creating the conditions in which you can do professional trading. So if you are prepared, then you were planning to trade in that sense. On the subject of intuition, trust but verify. And safety first. Verify later whether or not the intuition is any good or not by documenting what you did and then comparing them apples to apples and putting statistics on it. That's how you verify intuition. So trust it, but verify, but more importantly, safety first, OSHA. You got to live to fight another day. So position sizing and how much risk per trade is everything. Trade smaller than you think you can. I would ask you to think about the 5 ways of knowing and ask you where your intuition resides. Is it in the knowledge of your head, your heart, your gut, your hands, or your feet. Your head knowledge is the conceptual, rational understanding of things. Your heart is your knowledge of who you are, what your purpose is, and your intentions. Your gut is your knowledge of your own fears and risk tolerance and your own innate skill level when the chips are down. That's what your gut tells you, is what you're really capable of doing. The knowledge of your hands is how to do a thing. The knowledge of your feet is how to keep doing things day in, day out on the long march up the mountain. So you tell me where your intuition is residing. Is there a footprint in all 5 of those things? How does it shape what this thing that you're calling intuition? To me, it's everything except the head. Heart, gut, hands, and feet are pushing things into your head to shut up the rational side and say, no, this. As we go through these lessons, just remember it's okay to be on the lesson that you're on, that you did that week. What we really want to hear is the so what, the insights, the most important things that really grabbed you by the throat. It's like being in a workshop with 30 different power tools at different stations, and we're all working on our wood projects together, and we're going through in a sequential manner. But you can report on the lesson that you're working on. That's fine. And as we get people that have been through the course before and they're working on the lesson they do, you can come in. But remember, you got to quickly summarize that for us so that the rest of us know where you're at, and let us share in the gift of your true story. The guiding questions for traders in lesson 3, in the trading lesson, what do you feel about thinking? What do you think about feeling? All of those kinds of things. Those questions represent your relationship to your planned rules. Your planned rules and planned trading plan is the knowledge of your head that you're committing to with that part of you. But then how you feel about that and how you do it in practice and what you think about your practice versus your plan, those are those guiding questions in lesson 3 that should really be your step back end of the week or end of the day if you're day trading. How do I feel about the trading that I just did? So do that after your gratitude and forgiveness exercise, then get into those questions. The trading is the easiest part of the trading business. The business part is the hardest part. Well, that's the difference between professionals and hobbyists. Professionals do the hard work. There's good work done by a guy named James Marsh, who was a scholar of decision theory, and he's got a great book called How Decisions Happen. And he makes the point in the title of that book that we think decisions are part of this elaborate cognitive plan and rational thing. But he says, no, decisions happen in the world as a result of things that come together. And he coined the phrase the garbage can theory of making decisions, in which he said it's like you get all these random pieces and parts bouncing around in a garbage can, making noise, and every so often, and you see this in Department of Defense a lot, you got a guy with money, you got a guy with a problem, and you got a guy with a solution. And when those 3 things bang around and come together, they find a guy who has the authority to make the decision, to commit the money to the guy with the solution to solve that problem. So in the midst of chaos, those things kind of come together, and it looks like we got all 4 elements of a decision. Do we have a decision? In the same way that time, will, pattern, and money tells me if I can take a trade or not. Money, a problem, a solution, and authority to act is where decisions come from. Can I make low-risk decisions? Can I make better decisions? I make decisions all the time that were not part of a formal plan in a certain decision point. In a war fight, we might have 2 or 3 decisions that we've decided our 2-star general has to make for the most important parts of that fight. But there's literally a million decisions that are being made at every echelon, and he's responsible for the outcomes of all of those things. And we rendered the most important ones that only he can make down to just 2 or 3. But all those other decisions are happening. Some of them were planned and rehearsed. Some of them we were just prepared to act and made a rapid decision faster than the other guy and made a decision that improved our position by either getting more of this or removing a risk of that. And most of the time, it's reducing risk while seizing persistent advantages. So, how decisions happen in garbage can theories? What are the things that caused me to act? Why did I make that decision? Is the lens that you should be looking at through your trade debriefings. There's a decision to enter, there's a decision to exit, there is a hopefully 8 or 10 decisions along the way that caused you to adjust your stop all along the way. How did I make those decisions? How did it come to my attention? Did I use all the right information? Did I have a sufficient amount of critical information to do that? Let me enable waiting room. The final thing on those questions on the exercise there. So there's no right answers to those questions. It's really helping you think about the relationship between you, the decision maker in the trade, and you, the planner who was crafting this formal trading plan. So there's no right answers. There's just your answers, and you ought to know them, and you ought to know how well those answers are working for you. For Art, if you go into Campfire and just search in the search bar daily trading plans, you're going to find all kinds of written trading plans and sample plans that guys have posted in there that were good for them. It starts really with, to me, I would focus more on the standard framing questions of how to frame a trade, which you'll also find in Campfire, because you can't really have a good daily trading plan unless you have a good trade framing plan. I'm only going to make one bowl. So how do I make one bowl? Once I do that and I'm satisfied, then I can think about, well, how do I make bowls all day? What am I going to do with my whole day for my whole trading? I just start with one good bowl and being prepared to trade that one. So I would look for the standard framing questions in Campfire, and then also in sample daily trading plans in the room. Those things will come to you during this course. You'll be able to work on these at a higher level, on a creative level. But we've got no shortage of systems and trades and frames and things like that. So I thought you guys did really good work. I would listen carefully to the extract from Jeff from Sunday. The whole session was really good. The coaching moment that I had with Dan on Sunday morning was worth its weight in gold as well. So I think that whole session was definitely worth your time. And Dan learned something about the importance of language. He said he had a bad system, and we looked at his stat. He did not have a bad system. He had a system that needed refinement. There were plenty of good things in there that showed he was on the gold. It's just a bad plan. You just threw away that wash plant in that gold mine. There's no gold in there. There was plenty of gold in that. So the framing of it, the way you characterize things, makes a difference. The lenses that we use to look at this chaotic environment around us, the words that we're using in there, makes a difference in how we make sense of things. So it's really important to look at the words we use, the models we follow, and the craft knowledge that we are developing as professionals in the trading enterprise. So getting the words right, following good process, doing the reflective thinking about what we just did. Those become important. And so guys that are going through this course the second time are learning a ton, more than was available the first time. And guys that go back and listen to these afterwards and listen to their own stories through a different lens or through a different ear, pick up so much more. That was also covered on Sunday and by Ernie, and those truer words never spoken. We probably only get about 20% of the first pass of what was really in there. And so coming back to the well for more water is pretty helpful. So that's everything I wanted to say. I'm going to hit the tone. I have us at 8:22, so I'll hit the tone, then ask you to announce the word that comes bubbling up to your mind. We will forego coffee talk, and in order to take a short break for the nightly podcast. That one's going to be worthwhile. The opening section in that is going to be about the combination of swing trade and intraday turbo trade on the regional banks, ETF KRE. That's, I think, it's going to be a pretty good lesson. That'll be a pretty good 10 or 15 minutes right off the bat. So listen carefully as I hit the tones for the words that come bubbling up, and we'll get on with it. So here we go. Oh. Luke.
Trigger.
Ed.
Peace.
Dan.
Prepare.
Art.
Bravery.
William.
Doggedness.
OSHA. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll get this thing start processing, and then we'll start up in about 10 minutes or so for the nightly podcast, and we'll see you then. Good work again tonight, guys. Keep up the fire. Looking good.